John Batchelor. This is the John Batchelor Show. Michael Ledeen of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies joins to comment on what we know so far about the deal reached in Vienna in these last hours and days between the foreign ministers and the state secretary about the suspect's secret nuclear weapons program in Iran. Before we begin with the conversation that will last perhaps up to 10 years if we follow this document about whether or not Iran has complied with the mandates, we need to note that another day Michael has promised to come back and discuss a wonderful and warm-hearted essay about his friend Omar Sharif, the very famous actor, the humanitarian, as well as a master bridge player, I learned from Michael, who has also played bridge at the command professional level. Michael, a very good evening to you. We can presume that Omar Sharif is playing bridge all the time in heaven. His mastery of the game was a great success. Is that all something you'll speak to me another day of?
Oh, yes, John. Thank you. With great pleasure. Such a nice man and such a good bridge player. Very good bridge player.
And Omar Sharif's successes, we now turn to a disappointment. And I use the language of diplomacy. The disappointment is in what we know so far about the deal reached in Vienna. Michael, my surprise is that so much of this deal is yet to be acted upon. So much is yet to be validated. So much cannot be confirmed. This feels as if they've constructed the fog of diplomacy that no person can solve here. Was that on purpose, Michael? Good evening to you.
No, I don't think it was on purpose. I think the only way you can say it was on purpose was that he desperately wanted an agreement, and any agreement, because he has, I don't know what the right metaphor is. I use two. One is a battered wife. Doesn't matter how many times Iran spits in his face. He keeps on saying, no, you'll see, it'll be fine. They love me. We're going to have this great relationship. Or whether it's a besotted teenager running desperately after this gorgeous woman. He's just wild for Iran, and he just wants it to happen, and he'll do anything. I don't know which of those it is, but I think it's one of them. So, deliberately ambiguous? No. This was the agreement that he could get in the end. And it's what I called a no-deal deal. Nobody has signed it. It's going to be quite some time before anybody actually signs it. It's got to be approved by the various participants, by the EU, by the UN, by the Russians, by the Chinese, by us, by the Iranian parliament. An Iranian parliament, which, by the way, has passed a law that seems to say that some of the things in that agreement are illegal and that no Iranian government can possibly agree to them. Things like visiting military sites, things like talking to military officers, that whole bit there. We're a long way from having a deal. What we've got now is a no-deal deal. It's the same thing as last time. And remember last time when they came back from wherever it was, Geneva, I think, Khamenei said this isn't binding on anybody. Nobody signed anything.
And he's correct, Michael. But they have the word implementation in this. Is there a moment when they're going to say it's implemented, and now we begin to watch whether the codicils are satisfied?
Yes, there's something called Implementation Day, capital I, capital D, and that occurs when everybody agrees and formally approves it. You think that's going to happen? That may never happen.
Or it could happen as early as this year, next year, as Mr. Obama arranged this so that it's happening as he's leaving the office and he's kicking the can into his successor's camp.
No, I think that what Obama has wanted all along is an embrace of Iran, and then he gets on a plane, flies to Tehran, gets off the plane, walks across a big red carpet, and hugs Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader. That's what he wants.
Does it appear that that's imminent here? Because I don't see any a weakening of Iran's anti-Americanism. I don't see any invitation. For example, they're emphasizing that this. I noted this by Robin Wright's remarks in The New Yorker, that this deal does nothing about the conflict with Iran in the region and with our allies, and the suspicion that Iran is the major exporter of terrorism in the world. This deal removes none of that cloud.
Quite the opposite. We had Khamenei on Quds Day a couple of days ago out there leading chants of death to America and saying whatever deal we make has nothing to do with our revolutionary resolve against the great Satan. So they're going to keep killing us. And notice that there hasn't been a single nice gesture. They haven't released a hostage. In fact, just to rub it in, they put the Washington Post correspondent in Tehran, who's been in jail for nearly a year, they put him back in the courtroom.
To make it clear, of course, that this is not a deal with the great Satan. This is an opportunity to get their hands on all that cash. The president tells us in strikingly defensive remarks, using the word veto before the Congress has seen the document or debated the matter, veto if Congress disapproves it. The president mentions that he believes very little of the money will go to terrorist activity. How do we know that? How does he know that, Michael? Do we have a monitoring of how they spend the cash we're about to give them?
Nope. He doesn't know it. He can't know it. Nobody knows it. And it's extremely unlikely. They haven't showed much of an inclination to improve the lot of the Iranian people in recent years. Quite the opposite. Since Rouhani became president, the whole tempo of execution and torture has increased.
So what we're seeing here is an end to the rounds of negotiations between the Obama administration and Tehran. That's over with. And now
No, it's not over with. Over and over again in this document, they're going to form a committee, of course.
Right.
And that committee is going to deal with things that haven't yet been specified in this document. And that committee is going to negotiate more details. No, endless negotiations. Negotiations will never end.
And our allies are rushing to sign business deals with Tehran. Was that going to happen, Michael, whether there was a deal or not? In other words, were we dealing with a moot question of sanctions on Iran and the world had moved on?
Well, sure, we killed sanctions some time ago. Obama did. And notice that in the last several months, Boeing has been in Iran refurbishing Iranian aircraft. So we've been doing it, never mind our allies. We're in it up to our necks.
The president, 18 months in office, and that red carpet, is it more or less likely after this document and after the turmoil it's going to create in Congress?
I think unchanged. I think Obama doesn't care what Congress says or does. He can implement all kinds of things. He can do all kinds of things. It would be nice if Congress came out and really did a number on this deal and went through it and then raised some serious policy questions. And I keep going back to what the Washington Post said several years ago, which is you want an end to the Iranian military nuclear program. You need regime change in Tehran. And regime change is the only serious policy, and it's now more urgent than ever before.
Michael Ledeen, Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Omar Sharif playing Wonderful Bridge in Heaven. I'm John Batchelor. This is The John Batchelor Show.